Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks for clicking on this video. Today I want to be talking about Old War 10 Man and why I think Old War 10 Man might be the biggest challenge for your guild in the entire expansion. Because I think Old War 10 Man is low-key a bit of a guild killer. And so this is my PSA, my warning for all guild leadership out there. Take notes, and best of luck to you. I know we're way ahead of the game here, but the more prepared you can be for something like this, the better you can, deal with the repercussions and the fallout of what could come to your guild when Old War is released in Wrath Classic. So let's jump right into it. First thing I want to talk about is Old War 10 Man is a very long raid that should be completed in one sitting. What happens when Old War comes out is Old War 25 is such a major step up in difficulty from Nax 25 and OS and EOE that a lot of guilds who have predetermined raid times, say that's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever the case may be, you might be taking up a lot of those raid days with your 25-man raid. And that's great, phenomenal. You know what, go for it and enjoy your progression and have a blast with your guild doing that. But there's a lot of BIS pieces that come from old 10 man, and you need to get those groups going, and people need to go into those raids and knock it out. The problem with it is old 10 is in a lot of cases just as long as Old War 25. Sure, the progression may not be quite the same, and you might not have dedicated multiple days to raiding old 10, which is why you really need to complete old 10 in one sitting. It's asking a lot of the 9 other people with you to commit to multiple raid days doing Old War 10 man. And Old War is just a really long raid. It's tough for you to get all the bodies together and commit, 3-4 hours, whatever the case may be for you, to knock it all out. And sometimes you need longer than that. It's just, that's how it works. When you're doing Firefighter 10 man progression, that fight alone can last you 6, 7, 8 minutes. And then the run back and the rebuff and everything else that happens pre-pull is adding multiple minutes onto your full clear. And so things like that can really affect your clear times in Old War 10 man. So it's just a challenge. And this causes a lot of drama and tension between the people who are raiding with you. So that's just a beast of Old War that you have to deal with. Another thing is a lot of these big ticket items that we go into Old War for can take longer to get to. Things like Fusion Blade, which comes from Firefighter 10 man, a Suga, which comes off General Vezak's hard mode, Caress of Insanity, which comes off Yogg hard mode. These bosses are like at the end of the raid. You may have already been in the raid for a couple hours at this point by the time you get to them. What if your 10 man decided to kill Thorum hard mode, but spent a couple times wiping on Thorum hard mode? That adds major delays to your potential of committing to doing a General Vezak's hard mode pull. If you spent time going to do Ignis before the rest of the raid, that might have some effect as well. You're not going to have access to doing Vezak's until you kill all the other keepers, and so because of this, it actually can be a bit of a time sink to know that you have to kill all the other keepers before you can get to Vezak's, before you can get to Yogg. And early wipes will really cause people to lose their mental and want to just kind of check out early. So keeping your head on your shoulders with these big ticket items in mind that people want is going to be really tough for you. Another thing is just the loot drama in general. Look, there's a lot of great loot in Old War 10 man. Think about like Mjolnir Runestone, Dark Matter, the quest item off of Algalon, just to name a few. There's lots of good loot. And people aren't going to be doing loot council in a 10 man. If you're doing loot council in a 10 man, that's just cringe. Like, that's not necessary. You should be able to sort it out between the 10 people that you're doing it with, what you're going to do with that loot. Assuming it is a guild run. And there's just drama in that. Maybe you had to bring in a pug, like a 10th person to be a pug, because you needed a shaman, you didn't have one. And that shaman wants to roll in an item, and you lose that roll to a pug. There's just drama that always comes up in an Old War 10 man, because you've committed 3 hours to go do this damn raid that you didn't want to do, because maybe you've been doing it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you really want that item. This stuff just happens. There's just a lot of tension with the loot drama in Ulduar, and it's just something that you need to be prepared for. Now, the biggest issue, I believe, of all the points I'm going to be making today is this one. The offspecs and alts that happen in Ulduar. You need 2 tanks, you need 2 healers for Ulduar to happen. You just kind of need them. And you're going to have offspecs for that. There's no way that you're going to have your main raid players just filling out these 10-mans. Otherwise, that means that there's players who aren't maining, who aren't going to be able to play in their 10-mans at all. So that means you have your offspec DKs who are tanking. That means you have maybe an offspec Boomy who's going Resto to heal, or you have an offspec Shadow Priest who's going Disc to heal, or maybe you have an offspec Ret who went Holy or Prot for this raid, or whatever the case may be for you. That just means there are people who are playing characters that, or specs and roles within a boss fight that they're just not familiar with. They haven't done it before. They're new to it. Maybe you have an alt who's showing up to help fill for a slot because maybe there's a tank shortage. Maybe there's a healer shortage and you need people who are coming in on their alts, which are either under-geared or just not as familiar with the class and spec. And that affects the performance of your 10-man. Like I said earlier, maybe there's just a lack of shamans because we know that there's a lack of shamans in general. Most 25-man raids will probably have 2 shamans in them. And a 25-man raid is likely going to be a guild that's going to consist of 3 regular 10-man runs on any given week. And there's just not enough shamans to go around. Maybe you have an alt shaman or you have to pug a shaman. These things will just affect the effectiveness and raid balance in terms of talent and performance in your Ulduar 10-mans, which is probably the biggest issue that you have to deal with. Teaching people the fights from a different role is a struggle. A lot of times it can be a real struggle and a real damper on your raid speed. Another thing is missing your usual raid leadership. Look, the raid leaders out there cannot be in every single raid team for old 10-man. Your 10-man's like, you have to figure it out without your raid leaders. There's no way around it. Your raid leaders cannot make enough alts to play in every single Ulduar 10-man for you to get you through the content. People will have to step up into raid leadership, whether that's officers or even just like a lowly raider who just needs to step up. The communication has to happen. Someone needs to be calling the shots. Someone needs to be pushing the pace of the group, and someone needs to be teaching these fights to the people who maybe aren't familiar with them. That's just something that will be falling on some of the shoulders of the people out there listening right now. You need to be over-preparing yourself right now to step into those roles and to prepare your leadership for these raids, because missing your raid leaders is going to be a bit of a shock for some people, knowing that you're coming from content that's extremely easy in phase 1 into content that is very hard in phase 2 without your raid leader there to hold your hand. Another issue with Ulduar 10-man is deaths are a lot more punishing, and this just goes with all 10-mans in general. Firstly, you have fewer players. It's 10 people versus 25 people, so 1 death is just mathematically a bigger impact on a raid and on an encounter than 25. Also, you're probably only going to have 1 battle res available to you. 1. Sometimes 0. You might run into a 10-man where you have 0 druids in the raid. So your only other options are soulstones and onks. So if you die on any given encounter, say, let's say you're 3 healing firefighter and 1 person dies, you might not hit the enrage. You might hit the enrage and wipe to the enrage. If you're doing Algalon and you're 2 healing it with no battle res and one of your healers dies, that's probably a wipe right there. If you're doing any fight in general and a tank dies and you don't have a battle res or a soulstone on the tank, tank dies, it's a wipe. It's extremely punishing not having enough battle reses to cover mistakes like that, because the mistakes in 10-mans are equally as killable as 25-man mistakes. Standing on a mine in Firefighter, getting hit by Cosmic Smash, missing your black hole, staying in with the debuff on Yogg. All these things that will kill you in 10-man will kill you in 25-man. There isn't just a blanket net of safety because the content is easier, except for the fact that maybe you just have a little more gear to outscale it. So deaths are very punishing in 10-man, and everyone across the board just kind of needs to step up to the plate in that sense. All this being said, that's a lot of drama. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of intensity for Old War 10-man. What do we do to prepare as guild leadership for something like this? Well, sadly, I don't have a whole lot to give you here except for two things. One is you could take the route where you just have leadership go above and beyond for preparing for your 10-mans on a regular basis at the start of Old War. What do I mean by this? I mean your raid leadership could make all the raid comps. They could decide your raid times for 10-mans. They could appoint and promote raid leaders for 10-mans. They could show up to these raids as an 11th man if needed, or just a raid call from Discord for you. Your guild leadership could make multiple alts. They could be the example of making more and more alts phase 1 so that they could be prepared for this moment in phase 2. Problem is, there's only so much power and influence that guild leadership has. You can't pilot all 10 characters for these people. You're gonna run into issues where maybe you are the 11th man. You wanted to show up and kind of watch and be a fly on the wall, but also maybe raid lead a little bit from a Discord perspective for an Old War 10-man that's running. And let's say they wipe on XT hard mode. Let's say they wipe on Freya. Let's say they wipe on Hodir. That is something that, in a lot of cases, you just can't help. You cannot play the game for everyone. And if you see people in your guild wiping, it kills the atmosphere. It kills the energy and it kills the motivation. The only thing you can do is just lift them up with your encouragement. That's truthfully it. That's truthfully it. There's also attendance issues that they have to deal with in that case. So if you are making all the decisions for these 10-mans and deciding the raid comps and the raid times, there's attendance issues. Just like there are attendance issues with 25-man. People have emergencies that come up. They have all the reasons in the world that they would miss a raid. That happens with 10-mans as well. So it's just not ever going to be a perfect scenario in that case. And that's asking a whole lot from your guild leadership. It really does. It's basically doubling the amount of load that they have on any given week in terms of pre-raid preparedness. Now, the second option is just do a free-for-all. This is technically what I would recommend for pretty much every guild, is you just free-for-all it. Now, hear me out. If you do a free-for-all, the people who want it the most will make it happen. The players who need that loot, which is everyone, and the players who really want that loot will rise to the occasion. They will organize the groups. They will decide a raid time. They will lead the raids. They will decide loot priority. They will make the raid callouts, and they will do it. And they will put the sweat in to make it happen. However, you're also just much more likely to run into all the issues that we mentioned in this video if you do a free-for-all. On top of all these issues of maybe having people with loot drama or the Offspecs and Alts, and just asking people to organize in general is maybe a burden that they didn't expect to have when they joined your guild or started playing WoW to begin with. They wanted someone else to do all the organization for them. On top of all that, people will also just kind of CBA. Can't be arsed, you know? Like, they just don't want to do old 10 because it's too much effort. They've been there, done that. Maybe they got the loot that they wanted or needed and they're done. Or maybe they've just been burned. The drama and the toxicity that comes in old 10-man wipes, they're done. They've wiped their hands with it and they don't want to deal with it anymore. Or maybe they've raid enough as is. Old 25 takes up 2-3 days a week for them and they're done. After that, they don't want to deal with it anymore. And so you're very likely to run into those people in your guild. But that's it. I don't really have a whole lot of advice here in terms of how you should prepare for this. This is more just a PSA. If guild leadership knows going into phase 2 that this is going to be a problem, they can at least mentally prepare themselves for any type of fallout that might be. Maybe you need to over recruit because you know some bad players in your guild are going to be really pissed off and fail their 10-mans, or maybe you need to already be preparing and encouraging extra leadership among your raid team for people who can raid lead 10-mans. Whatever the case may be, guys, this is just my PSA warning to you. I have done so many old war 10-mans now to this day, years and years worth of old 10-mans, that the drama there is unavoidable. The last time I was doing old 10-mans in a P server, we had one person G-quit on a regular basis. Every week for 3 weeks. We did an old 10-man, didn't clear, one person G-quit on a Thorum hard mode. We had another person quit during Hodier hard mode. And then we had another person quit the week after. It was 3 weeks in a row we had G-quitters because of old 10-man drama. It happens. Happens to the best of us. People get pissed off, people start talking, and your regular raid leadership isn't there. Not all groups are made the same. Truthfully, like, the drama that comes in Old War 10-man is beyond any other drama that you'll see. Now, ICC is a different beast. We can deal with ICC drama when we get there, but just know that in Phase 3, you get a bit of a break. Phase 3 TOGC is so easy that it's like Zulamon. Sure, sometimes you might run into the drama of not timing your chest in Zulamon. Sure, sometimes in TOGC you might not hit 50-50 and there's going to be some drama there, but it's nothing. Nothing comes close to the drama in Old 10. Old 10 is so long and so challenging early that it can break guilds, and you just need to be prepared for that. Anyway, guys, I feel like that's it for this video. I just wanted to give a quick PSA about that, and this ended up being not quick at all. I do hope that my thoughts and opinions were expressed clearly for you. Thanks so much for all the support. If you want, please give this video a like, and please subscribe to the channel. You have no idea how much that actually helps me. We hit 12K subscribers just a couple weeks ago, and I'm really, really appreciating all the support. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.